Hey everybody, welcome back to the LuckyDog podcast. This is your host, Elias. Today we are discussing Sonic the Hedgehog, the film, 2020, directed by Jeff Fowler, which I believe it is Jeff Fowler's directorial debut as well. This is written by Pat Casey and Josh Miller. Not too familiar with Patrick Casey. With the exception, I haven't seen anything he's been involved in. Both of them have worked on something called, they've both been under the alias Worm Miller before. That's interesting. Josh Miller and the writer Pat Casey. So anyways, Sonic 2020, I just wanted to give a quick review based off of the 2020 adventure comedy based off the video game published by Sega. This stars Ben Schwartz as the voice of Sonic, Jim Carrey as Dr. Robotnik, as well as James Marsden, Tika Sumpter, Natasha Rothwell, Adam Pally, and Neil McDonough. In the film, Sonic, you need a tonic to watch this. Sonic teams up with the local town sheriff, Tom Wachowski, to escape the government and defeat Robotnik, who wants to steal Sonic's powers for his robotics. So, this movie's probably most critically known for having released a trailer about 4 or 5 months ago, and it being critically reviled, mostly because of the design of Sonic. It is kind of actually incredible, the work they did, from going from kind of this creepy looking, too much realistic alien blue figure to actually having a real animated design. Honestly, it kind of reminds me of The Lion King versus some of the the 2019 Lion King almost was too realistic in a way. So they kind of went too realistic with Sonic. And so they had to go back and drop about $5 million and do a complete reshoot of the character and redesign and tried to fix the character. Ultimately, I think that $5 million was pretty well used. Mostly because this movie has already grossed over $50 million its first weekend. Most people are pretty surprised about how good this movie is doing in comparison to something, say, such as Birds of Prey. Now, without giving too much of a review, I will say most people will put video games and video game films in this separate category, that it's kind of maybe not less than, or maybe it doesn't have the right materials or anything like that. But really what I'm getting this comparison to would be something like a Detective Pikachu, something in the same realm. I think this was a little bit more expensive than Detective Pikachu with a budget of 80 to 95 million. Let me see if I can find Detective Pikachu real quick. But I think they're doing somewhat of the same numbers. And there's a lot of similar comparisons, with the exception of with Detective Pikachu, they are creating a whole new world. And with this movie, they are bringing the character out of his world and into our world. So that's overall the difference. The budget for Detective Pikachu was $150, so they had a lot more to work with, I guess. When it comes to the budget, let me see if I can find the opening weekend real quick of Detective Pikachu. Let's see. Release. Damn, it doesn't give me an actual number. Anyways, Sonic the Hedgehog. Let me just talk about some of the pros and cons real quick of Sonic the Hedgehog. Let me see if I can get the box office real quick. Opening weekend gross for Detective Pikachu real quick. Okay, so Detective Pikachu had $103 million on its opening weekend in comparison to Sonic, which is not bad. I would expect something like Pikachu to have slightly more recognition and popularity and appeal to a broader audience. But over 50 million for Sonic's really good. So let's talk about the pros for Sonic. Sonic, the pros, the action. I'm just gonna say I really enjoy the action. The way the camera is positioned into making you feel like sometimes you're Sonic and sometimes you're watching him and doing all of the cool tricks that he does. Turn into a ball, jump really fast, do all these crazy things. Yeah, it's kind of enjoyable to watch him do all this stuff. But what really shined for me during this movie was Jim Carrey. I think every time he's on screen, he has this way of kind of, it doesn't feel quite like ad-libbing, but it does feel like he's kind of putting his own flair on the writing. And something about the writing in this movie just was kind of flat overall, but whatever they gave Jim Carrey, it's awesome. I love having Ace Ventura style Jim Carrey's crazy ass back on the big screen. And this is one of those movies that I would say it's hard to critique from an adult point of view, if you want to say that, because this movie very much feels like it's geared to kids, and kids are going to enjoy this movie. I think anyone under the age of maybe 12 would probably really enjoy it. But once you're in the preteen area and the teenagers and all that, they're going to say there's not it's not sexy enough, it's not edgy enough, it's not clever in many ways. They have a lot of sight gags, tons of product placement, that type of shit. I don't know if this movie's going to age well, given a lot of the comedy in it feels rooted in 2020. So those are pretty much the pros. Let me go to the cons real quick. Writing for Sonic. The entire writing for this character of Sonic just feels very bland. I almost thought I was listening to a character talk off of like a video game itself, when they're explaining things to you. Everything's very surface level, it feels like. And I think the explanation when you're trying to get down to who this character is can be quite a rabbit hole, because you're like, wait, you're who? From where? From what? Who? How do you get the powers? What? Why are you blue? Why are you talking? So many questions. And so that's where it kind of gets a little bit difficult to categorize as saying, well, kids don't really give a shit about that. Well, you know what? Well, that doesn't mean we don't want like a movie that makes sense. So some more of the cons was the CGI in this. I thought the stuff for the Dr. Robotnik and the stuff, the action scenes that he has regarding his, his machines. I thought that generally looks good, but I thought the cross between Sonic and him in the real world he just looks way too much like a character, and I think that might be a circumstance of them going back and dropping $5 million on the character to get a redesign. So let me go into spoilers for Sonic real quick right now. So the intro rings on Paramount were really cool. I saw that actually on the commercials as well. I love how it shows the ding, 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 ding. I always like intros with Paramount or WB. I think WB Warner Brothers had that really retro looking Joker intro. It had this one has this Paramount has the Sonic intro. I also remember Paramount does the sounds for the Transformers when the stars are going over the Paramount logo. Very cool. I like that. So I liked how they did this with the rings. We're basically thrown into the action, and then in Deadpool-style recall, he goes back and says, "Oh, you probably wonder how all this is happening." Personally, I'm getting a little bit tired of that trope. And we also find out Sonic is on an island with some owl master thing, and they basically summarize it saying this is his Mr. Miyagi or Obi-Wan. And I was like, okay, so he's just going to rely, this character is going to rely on tropes that a lot of adults know, that, kids, probably under 10 won't recall too well. Also, I don't really understand what Sonic is. He can hop into different dimensions using his rings. It's kind of just loosely based off of, I guess, the game. And I've played the game a handful of times, so I didn't really do like a big connection to it. So I know Sonic best well for playing them on Smash Brothers instead of actually playing it on the actual Sonic game. So I'm strictly coming from this from a very far point of view, as mostly just knowing who Sonic is as a character or brand or entity, but not so much about the world he lives in. I just know, he has a loose space of friends, and there's Robotnik and all that shit, and that's about all I know. So when he talks about jumping into different dimensions, like the Mushroom World, I'm like, wait, what? Who's this? What? Why? How many different dimensions? What's going on? So that's kind of just thrown away. He says literally, but let's not worry about all of that, because it's just like we just want to make up shit as we go. That's what it kind of feels like. They claim he's an alien. I love this guy named Crazy Carl. It's like the homeless guy that calls him the Blue Devil. Like throughout the, most of the movie, this is a pretty funny joke that he's just fucking with the homeless guy. Apparently, Sonic is just living on our world. Yeah, so I love Crazy Carl. And he's spying on James Marsden. That's kind of weird, and ends up just the whole chemistry and bond between James Marsden befriending Sonic happens ironically way too fast. We find out that what's it? Was Sonic talking in an Indian accent? I have that written down. I don't know if that's completely correct or not. We find out that Sonic is lonely. He's so is James Marsden, apparently talking to a damn donut, which I think he calls him like Donut Lord or Donut Master. Which is not even a good joke. It's like, come on now. I do really like the cop, James Marsden's partner. He was hilarious. Because I feel like he knows what movie he's in. All of the government officials were cracking me up. I mean, they were talking about we hit him with Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Jakistan, and they're just naming some random ass countries about places that Robotnik has went, saying that he went there, and it's they were like, it's not even a country. It's like, because Robotnik went. It's like, oh shit. It's like, damn. I thought that was just random. Robotnik is pretty self-conceited, and he believes that machine will power over man. And I kind of like that small message. It's not really a major message throughout the movie, but he does kind of just say a few things about, my machines don't make mistakes like you do. And it could have a really overt autonomous message about machines taking over from man, but I don't think Sonic was willing to go that far. Think that hard. We get Olive Garden and Zillow house name brand checks the entire fucking movie. There's like 3 or 4 Olive Garden. Oh, you're gonna love the all-you-can-eat basket of breadsticks or something like that. It's like, what is? It's like, did that $5 million really cost y'all that much that y'all had to jump? Put these, pay them off with Zillow and Olive Garden. I mean, at some points it just felt like they're like, it felt like they were saying the slogan for the fucking company. It wasn't even good product placement. Of course, they got to go, once Sonic and James Marsden are together, and we realize James Marsden has to take care of Sonic, and somehow he convinces him to do it for some reason, and he can't tell Sonic to look at a GPS. He has to physically drive him there. Okay, that doesn't make any sense, but okay. They have to go to a stupid honky tonk. Like, every single adventure trope that you can think of like going on an adventure or something like that, going on a trip, vacation or something, they always seem to have the same tropes. It's like, you got to run into the weird people, you got to go into the bar, I have a list of some of the tropes somewhere down here. Just normally there's a scene where they have to, get crazy or drunk or at some point. I don't know. I don't recall if they actually did that, but since it's a kid's movie, they might have just ate some sugar or something. Anyways, the honky tonk, overall shows a lot of the problems with the movie, like the writing within that, showing how people react to react to Sonic. Like one of the big guys in there is like, "Hey, we don't like your kind here," and Sonic and James Marsden just looking at him, you know, like, "What do you mean our kind?" He's like, "Hipsters." It's like, all right, that's it. And of course they gotta go bar fight. So they do a stupid ass bar fight, and it did lead for a cool action segment, which they completely rip off from Quicksilver and the Avengers, and I think a couple other movies where, like Over the Hedge, I think did it or two. It's when one character has so much energy that everyone is just going in super slow motion, and they're kind of like in regular motion because they're going so fast. So they did a kind of a little scene with that, which was cool, probably expensive. Let me see. What Sonic and James Marsden start to have this like kind of like unnecessary bickering between them, and it mostly has to do with James Marsden wanting to leave Green Hills and not wanting to just stay in this small town. And Sonic's whole thing is, you can't leave Green Hills, you know, everybody loves you, blah blah blah, you know, everyone relies on you. And it's like, yeah, but Sonic, you don't really understand anything. And James Marsden's just like, yeah, I do belong here. And I think Green Hills is actually a level, or one of the first levels on Sonic, the video game. So, yeah, lots of movie tropes throughout this. I thought the bickering between them didn't really work when it came to talking about James Marsden's career, future, whatever. That didn't really make sense. Random dancing scene, and I love the cinematography when it comes to the colors of this little set they have Jim Carrey on. I don't think the cinematography is that great throughout the movie, but it's mostly too bright in my opinion. But that just goes with the the movie. So yeah, I love that little random dancing scene in the middle with Jim Carrey straight losing it. And I felt like Jim Carrey was in very small sections of the movie. It almost felt like they kept him in his little lair for the majority of the movie. He didn't go to too many places. So why do different people react different to Sonic? Some people are like, "Whoa!" And other people are like, "We don't like your kind." And it's like, okay, so no consistency. We see how he gets the red shoes, and I think this is kind of all tangled in when James Marsden shows up at his sister-in-law's house, and they end up having to tie up the sister, and then that was a pretty funny scene with the sister-in-law kind of freaking out and whatnot. Although I do feel like his wife kind of was just like, what is going on, and you know, who is this blue guy, and what, you know, I felt like his wife just. First of all, she's gorgeous, for one thing. I need to just point that out, that holy shit, I've never seen this actress, but she was stunning. Although I do feel like her character, her name's Tika Sumpter, plays Maddie. But yeah, they do this whole like summary. She like walks, she just kind of like joins into the movie, and Marston is just like, "Oh yeah, Robotnik is the bad guy coming after us. Oh yeah, we did this. Oh yeah, this is Sonic." It's like this weird recap that they have to do for his wife. It's almost like for the people that weren't paying attention. Let's see. So at the very end, the homeless guy and the deputy show up. That was pretty funny when there's this big showdown. And this is actually where I think this part of the movie is stronger than Detective Pikachu. Detective Pikachu got so stupid for me in the very last 10 minutes, where this is stupid, but they kind of know they're stupid. Robotnik gets blasted to another planet or dimension, to the mushroom dimension. And he apparently lives. We kind of see him a little bit later. He's just like hiking in this forever mushroom land. But it kind of leaves it open for a sequel. The best jokes had really nothing to do with the movie, to be honest. Olive Garden promotion at the end. What the hell? Literally, the government shows up and gives him a Olive Garden gift card. Like, what the fuck? They literally did not give a fuck. They were just like, we just need our money. And so they're like, Sonic, it's time for you to go. Go to bed. And they give him the attic upstairs in their new place. It's like, I don't really understand how old Sonic is in the first place. At the very beginning, we see like a baby Sonic. And so now he's supposed to be a grown ass man or grown ass hedgehog or whatever the fuck he's supposed to be. But I just have so many questions in regarding to why is he in like a kid's room at the very end? He's like put in like a little car bed and he looks like like a 12-year-old would live there. I don't understand anything about what's going on with Sonic and his age or whatever he's going on his damn bucket list throughout the whole movie. He's just like, what's a bucket list? Oh, it's things you want to do before you die. It's like, ugh, come on. I don't know. I didn't hate this movie, and I kind of do feel like I was railing on it the majority of the time. I felt like it was lighthearted enough that you're going to have fun with the family, the kids. If you got some young kids that want to get out and watch a movie, this would be a good one to go see. I can't think of too many more kids movies that are out. This is definitely something you don't want to. If you're thinking between Birds of Prey and Sonic, then you probably want to go with Birds of Prey if you want a little bit more action, a little bit more rated R goodness. If you're going for family friendly, Sonic's where you want to go, and definitely what you want to see if you're deciding between the two. So yeah, overall, Sonic was not a bad movie. I did give it a 6 out of 10. Mostly just because the writing I feel like this is going to be forgettable for me personally, but kids are probably going to love this. I think kids, would give it a higher rating. They would say, probably a 7 or 8, but Jim Carrey keeps it interesting enough for the adults, Sonic for the kids, and James Marsden's there. I like James Marsden, but I just don't understand why he's always in these random family comedies. But I guess, making 50 million on the first weekend, I can see why. So, all right, everybody. Thank you for listening, watching LuckyDog Podcast. We could not do this without you. Support at the LuckyDog Podcast. What the hell do we support at? PayPal.me/the LuckyDog Podcast. Link is down in the description. Comments, questions, concerns, email, Twitter, Facebook, Twitch, Instagram, YouTube, Discord. We got all the links in the description. We could not do this without you. Thank you for supporting. 5 stars on iTunes. And if you have reviews, let me know what you thought about Sonic the Hedgehog, what you want us to review next, what you're looking forward to. Let me know how I can improve. Thank you, and take it easy.